All right, good Friday morning. Lots to talk about. Brenden, man, a lot going on in there.
I'm at the beach.
You're at the beach. Oh my God, man,
Look at
that's
the
just
beach.
I yearn for being at the beach right now. Man, what a blessed day it is. Hey, Brenden Martin, executive producer at the beach somewhere on the Gulf or the Atlantic.
Undisclosed. Undisclosed.
Undisclosed
Okay.
location. That's right. Okay, got a great lineup. Roman Harper, SEC Network checks in the first segment. Frank Duffy, Doug Dean, Chris Plank, Boomer Sooner Network. Hearing a lot about the Vols. My wife Audrey this morning said, as a Vol fan, I'm worried. We're hearing only about Tennessee. OU's going to be there too. It's their stadium. We'll get his perspective. Ken Capps checks in with some. March Manning, my son Wilson, said he was ordering a jersey up in Charlotte, and he's an Auburn grad. What a wild world we live in today. Smash that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Buckle up, folks. The no smoking signs or the smoking signs or whatever are on. We're going to be taking notes, a lot to learn. We're coming at you with SEC sidelines, the whole thing right now. Let's go.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man. Roman Harper is in here with us right now. I guarantee you he's been up early with the kids, working out, getting his day off to a great start. Frank Duffy, Mr. LSU Tiger in New Orleans. Frank, last night you were eating at one of those famous steakhouse. Hey, Roman, I know you played for the Saints for a few years, 9 to be exact. Where were you eating steak last night, Frank?
Man, I was at Mr. John's on St. Charles Avenue. Fantastic steak. I know Roman knows Desi Vega. He's got a couple of great steakhouses here. Fabulous food. And look, there's nothing about sitting in a bar in New Orleans at a steakhouse and eating and watching a game in the corner and having your bet sheets fanned out in front of you. And let me tell you, Roman, we are on fire here in New Orleans with our two-game start, man. It's starting to feel a little bit like 2009 to me, man. We fired up around here.
Roman, can they do it again? I mean, you're part of something that's only happened one time down there, and they're still celebrating.
Yeah, we are.
I don't know if they'll be able to do it again, honestly. I mean, you got to be so lucky to win a Super Bowl. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
New Orleans has had different opportunities before that under Sean and with Drew. They had a couple of different times. He lost the NFC Championship game at home. I was at that game.
Yeah.
And you got to be lucky. But before all that, though, let's just appreciate the vibes. It's a very confident team right now. I was just at the complex yesterday. The fan base is very excited. And I like that. Like, I feel good for it. And I feel happy and appreciative for the players that actually get to live through that, because New Orleans is such a unique city. When the city and when the football team is good, it's just different. And I'm really looking forward to the Superdome on Sunday with Philly coming in. A lot of Philadelphia fans on my flight yesterday when I flew in. And so it's going to be it's going to be loud. It's going to be ruckus. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm excited for all the fans, though. I'm excited for the team. I'm excited for DA, Dennis Allen, and Mickey and those guys, because a lot of times everybody wants you to be so reactionary and so emotional and fire this coach and get rid of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to have a cool mind, and a cool and calm mind will prevail at the end. And hopefully that's what's happening right now. We're starting to see a turn.
And Roman, I will tell you, the personnel on offense fits this Kubiak West Coast offense perfectly. I mean, Alvin Kamara is the West Coast back. Going back to the original one, Roger Craig, 1,000 years ago, he just has that ability to run hard, run fast, get the corner. But he's a great pass catcher. But the thing I'm fired up about is this defense. I mean, look at that secondary back there. I mean, and look, and Marshawn hadn't played the last few days. You got Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama played great corner last week. And look, when Marshawn comes back, he's our 6th D-back. Man, I'll put our 6 D-backs against anybody in the country right now. They're shutting it down. And if you can shut down those receivers and give Cam and that defensive line an extra 1 second to get to the quarterback, man, we were pounded. I was in the dome 2 weeks ago. And look, we had a D-back with 3 sacks. I mean, when's the last time that's happened around here?
Roman, that doesn't happen.
It's perfect timing, Roman. I feel good about it. Hey, look, I had y'all at 20-1 to win the Super Bowl in 2009. The only time I had ever bet the Saints, and it was because you remember y'all's 3rd preseason game. Y'all went out and played the Raiders, and y'all shut them down. And again, I know it was a preseason game, but it was the dress rehearsal game. It was the dress rehearsal game, that 3rd game, and y'all beat them like 42-0. And I said it last time. I said, our defense, y'all remember how opportunistic y'all were? Y'all were like thieves. Y'all were intercepting and recovering fumbles. So I'm telling you, I've only bet the Super Bowl bet for the Saints twice in my life. One was 2009, one was this year. And I got 90-1 this time, only 20-1 with y'all when y'all started that season.
Shit, Roman, I mean, the excitement that this football and your college career and what you did with the Saints and the Panthers, 11 years, that's a long career. It translates into how you break down. You and Cole, have you written your Emmy Award-winning speech for that show, Read and React? Because it's the best show
it's a great
for
show.
people. Y'all break it down. You make it easy to understand. But I got to address the elephant in the room. My wife, Audrey, of All for Life, you've met her. She goes, all I'm hearing everybody talk about is Tennessee. What about Oklahoma? Let's start with that game out there in Norman this weekend because it's history in the making. It's going to be a big one.
Well, do you want to hear about Oklahoma? I think, number one, they have a chance because they're getting back healthy into positions of need.
Yeah.
Their center's coming back, offensive guard. That should help sew up some things. The biggest thing is with Jackson Arnold. He has to continue to take that next step as a quarterback in this league. And they don't have a running game that they just kind of lean on and depend on. It's a lot of those other things. Also, at the wide receiver position, they've been really, really banged up. And so when you're playing with second, third string guys, not everybody's as open. The separation is not the same. And it just all those other little things and nuances that kind of go into offense and timing of routes and all that other stuff. Excuse me. Oh, I apologize about that. But anyways, so that's just kind of where I see Oklahoma. Oklahoma has to understand they got to win this game defensively. They got to create turnovers.
Yeah.
They got to be opportunistic, like we just talked about with my former New Orleans Saints teams. That's what Oklahoma has to do. And can they hold Tennessee to like 20 points, 20-something points? You're not going to – you can't win that game thinking you're going to go in there and score 35, 47 points versus Tennessee. That's not the type of game that Oklahoma wants to play. Oklahoma has been good on offense. Then they've really struggled in the second half at times. So, like, who are they going to be? They haven't been that consistent. And as a defense, you got to understand that, know that already going into the fight. And what are we going to do about it from there? And so there can be no communication, no mental errors. Like all those other little things, they got to get those things cleaned up because Tennessee, we all know, can score at a high clip. And they attack you so differently than other teams.
Roman, what you've seen in the SEC, you watch all these games, you break the tape down. What teams are standing out as like the best four, and who are some teams that are on the way down that are surprising you a little bit?
It's really hard to say like who's like on their way down or out. It's just too early, and every team is still slightly and surely, but kind of figuring themselves out. But I'll give you my top. I think Texas is up there. Texas is one of the top teams. Even though I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid yet, like they still have games that I want to see them play in. Texas, like every year we say it's this, we say it's that, but Texas is a team that's lost to Oklahoma 8 out of the last 10. And I know they don't want to hear me say that, but it's just the truth. And so you got to get past that. If you want to do something you've never done before, you got to do something you've never done before. So you got to beat Oklahoma. And then they have Georgia at home, which last time they had a big game like that. They let Alabama out of the gates. So they got to make sure they handle business with Georgia at home. And then you have Texas A&M on the road. Other than that, Texas is better than everybody else they have on their schedule, period. You just roll them out. Texas is better, period. So unless they have a huge letdown, they're not. That's what they are. Georgia is another team for me. I do have some concerns with them offensively, just in their lack of explosiveness and lack of, it just seems like they're just kind of methodical at times. I want Georgia to come out and treat it like a 400-meter sprint. Like, I know it's a long race, but shoot, man, freaking take off. Like, you don't get to warm up into it. They start that, they blow the gun. Those cats are freaking rolling right now. And so that's what I want to see out of Georgia. The ability to be able to go 4 quarters, pedal to the metal offensively, and not just have to depend on our defense to get all these other stops. And it's good to have that. Yeah. But what happens when you play against a team that has another gear? Can you keep up? Are you able to shift and go get them offensively? That's my concern with Georgia. The other team I like is Ole Miss. Ole Miss is playing really, really well. They got experience and they got NFL talent everywhere. This is the most NFL-ready team I've seen, the most NFL-ready talent I've seen on Ole Miss ever. Ever. And I say that, literally ever. So it's really, really good to see on defense. They got NFL guys up front. They got NFL guys in the back of the defense, especially Trey Amos. I think he's a really good player, the transfer from Alabama. Then on offense, you got weapons. Literally, you got 3 guys in the wide receiver. You got a quarterback. You got a running back. You got tight ends. It's just a lot of really good, talented players. They just haven't had a tough schedule. Jackson Dart's barely played into the third quarters, and so it's hard for you to okay.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's what are you going to do when you actually play a real game? So we'll see that they've gone almost a whole month and I hadn't played a real game yet. So that'd be interesting. They played Wake Forest and they weren't perfect, but they still got after him, and it was still very good to see. Good to see that. No, Ole Miss is still just way better than Wake Forest. Of course, after that, you probably go Alabama, Missouri, and for different reasons. But I like both of those teams as well. Missouri's probably a little bit better than I thought defensively going into it because I thought they lost a lot. I didn't think they have to be able to replace it that easily, but they've done a really good job. And then with Alabama, I really like Alabama's. I don't really like or love a lot of anything, but they have some really great attributes about themselves that can be really, really good if they master their craft. And so that's what is going to have to be the next evolution for Alabama. They got to continue to sharpen their knife. They got to continue to understand they are in a race to improve every single day. And they got to know and say, we're not a finished product. Yeah, we still have more out there to get to. And if they do that, and if things can be realized, they have a really good shot at it as well.
What's your take on what's going on down in Florida? We have a lot of listeners here, Gators. What's your take with Billy Napier? And I'm not trying to preface this by being the dumpster fire in Florida. I just want your real assessment of really what's going on there, and then how bad is that really after about 8-9 years of this? How bad is this for Florida if that's your opinion, if it is bad going forward, and will Florida rise again, I guess?
Good question.
That a lot of that has to do with Florida, not me. The biggest thing is that Florida's they're just not. They're not great. They're not that good. They don't play great fundamental football. When you look at them defensively, they don't tackle well. They don't fit the runs well. If I'm outside of a runner, I stay outside. It's another guy coming. I gotta keep him in my leverage. They don't do those little things. little things that help you win football that nobody talks about, nobody ever sees. Like, no, it's boring. It's fundamentals. Like Tim Duncan back in the day, nobody liked watching the Spurs. It was just kind of boring. Their star player, Tim Duncan, just missed the fundamentals. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that all day.
Rings.
Yeah, exactly. But it wins you games. This is like what it is. And so, it's really hard to talk about on TV. But, I was on Read and React last week, and I'm like, Texas A&M, Marcel Reed throws a touchdown middle of the field. Yeah, that's great. Oh, he looked the guy off. Yeah, but what was the defense doing? I don't think people understand all these big highlight plays and everything that they show on ESPN, and we all get excited about our big plays on offense. It usually comes with a busted defense.
Yeah, always.
And so, like it's usually a mistake made on defense.
Or the wrong defense is out there, right?
Yeah,
wrong personnel out there.
Yeah, some other thing that a defensive player did wrong, and it just gets worse from there. And so, for me, I think DJ Lagway is a better opportunity and has more upside for Florida. But my colleague Tim Tebow is kind of right in a way where you don't want to put him out there too early and lose him, and ruin him with not enough around him. We're seeing that kind of on the pro level with Bryce Young right now. Yeah. And so all those things kind of happening, and it's just really, really interesting to see. But it matters to me less about the quarterback right now because the defense does not get stops when they need them to. Guys' eyes are in the wrong place.
Ever.
Yeah, they don't fit the run correctly. It's like little things that they should be so much better, and I want them to be better. But then at that point, I'm like, are you even playing hard? So now
does that come down to coaching to you though? Is that?
Of course. Look, of course, I will. I'm because I'm a former player. I never liked the running play,
right?
Especially 20-something-year-old guys and males that are out there, and that's just because most amateur athletes, 90%, 95% of the amateur athletes, they want to do what the coach is telling them. This is not the NFL where guys are making boatloads of cash and like, you know what, dude, I've been doing this for 10 years and like feeding my family. Like, you're this coach and like you're telling me this, and I'm like, F you, okay? Like, I got it.
Right.
That's not what's happening in college. Guys are actually listening. They want to be coached. They're probably not as listening as much because they're actually making some money, but you still have to coach the game. And I would still die on the sword of I'm going to coach how I'm going to coach. And for those that want to be here, they will be here. And as long as I continue to pour into them, continue to give them great information and love, and as much as I continue to scold them and try and get them to do the right thing, then everybody's getting better. And as long as everybody feels or senses that they're getting better, they want to stay in that room. So that is the other thing that continues to, for me, I believe is what the future is for every player is they want to see themselves being better, being coached up and getting better. And if you do that, then I do believe they will stick it out and won't always just go to the transfer portal. And if they do, so what? It's addition by subtraction. Like, you got to have that mindset.
Yeah. Roman, I wanted to say real quick, this is Chris Plank of the Boomer Sooner Network. He's the sideline reporter
or
out there.
Doug Dean, or Doug Dean. One of the
other. Or Doug Dean. That's Doug Dean. I'm sorry. That's Doug. Doug is over in West Alabama riding around at his hunting club getting the deer plots ready. But say hello to Roman, Doug.
Oh, the great Roman Harper. I'll give you an RTR just this once, Roman. You were a hell of a player, my friend.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And I'll tell you one thing, Roman. I told a couple of people last night when I said you were going to be on this show, the way you handle yourself, what WSFA TV 12 was interviewing you last year in Nashville for an interview. And before you talked about your career and yourself, I was like, wow. You go, I just want to say hi to everybody back in Prattville.
I was going to say WSFA, man. That's like home.
TV 12. So, but you always thank the people where you're from. And you're the truth broker. It's what I call you. Mark Ham has already said, Roman, you got to come when SEC Nation comes. He's bought 2 new grills to have even more brisket. But they love it when you come by there because you're first class. And, guys, when we walked through the crowd, Audrey and I did with you, you signed at least 200 autographs and took pictures. You didn't turn anybody away. We need more Roman Harpers. You and Cole, I love that show. But anyway, anybody else have a question? I know Roman's on a tight schedule.
I got one. The amazing part of what you rattled off in the first segment that you were talking about. We literally have 7 to 8 teams in this conference that are playing outstanding football. Now go back to the day. It was Alabama. It was like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and then kind of Kirby came in with Georgia and to kind of deal with them. But for the first time, we're like in a cage match, and everybody look like you said. Ole Miss, that was the fifth team you talked about. Ole Miss is throttling people. And you didn't even get really to Missouri, LSU, or an upstart Auburn. Have you ever seen this much talent, power in this conference? And especially now with the 12-team playoff scenario, I mean, we literally could get, I mean, again, politics aside, we could deserve to get 4 or 5 teams in this playoff.
No, I see. I think 4 is kind of where the SEC falls. I think 3 is a disappointing year. That means Oklahoma's better than we think they are, because Oklahoma, I mean, they're the barometer this year. They play all the teams: LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss. They play everybody. Texas. So they are the barometer in which everybody's measured. So if they're better, that means more teams get knocked off, and then so that would be it. And it could happen 5, but that means other conferences aren't that good. But right now, the SEC is so deep and so good because the quarterback plays better. They've done a really good job of developing players. The defenses have all gotten better, and like the high school players and the other transfers that come to these schools all understand what SEC is, and it's just like they're saying, or their slogan. It just means more. It truly does, and they recruit at that level, and they understand that. And players want to play against the best, and I want the best chance to go to the NFL, and you do it by going to the SEC.
Yeah.
Great.
Rob, can I throw a
question? Absolutely. Because Roman, I know when you got to go, you got to bounce. I understand.
Okay. Roman, first of all, I really enjoy you on air, and I say the same thing about Greg McElroy. I don't care where a guy played college as long as they call balls and strikes on there, and you do a fine job.
Thank you.
You know, one of the great things about college football is it's immortal. There are seasons, good or bad seasons, they live on in our memory, especially here in the South. And I wanted to take you back, if the question is not unfair. I think you're uniquely objective to answer this. Raging debate between Auburn fans, which team would win a hypothetical game between that 2004 undefeated Auburn team and 2010. And of course, it's unanswerable and kind of silly. But you were playing at Alabama at Oakville. Y'all gave Auburn hell in that Iron Bowl that year. It might affect
so the 2004 has more NFL guys, but it's just really hard to slow down or stop or go against the 8.0 typhoon magnitude that was Cam Newton, right, of college football. Like, it's what it was. Like I'm still like, man, I would probably take Cam just because, you know, I couldn't name a whole bunch of other guys off that team that were NFL guys.
Yeah.
But Cam Newton was the best player in college football, and still one of the best players I've ever seen come into college football and just take it over by storm. Auburn was not ranked when he showed up. Auburn, he didn't really play in the spring game, and so nobody really knew. And then all of a sudden, this guy, big, great smile, super athletic, could throw the ball, just completely took over college football and just went out there and did whatever he wanted. It'd be really, really intriguing and hard to see. I would just take Cam just because I wouldn't bet against Cam. Like,
I hear you. I think that 2004 defense indisputably was a little better than 2010 when you got Carlos Rogers locked down.
Yeah,
back there. And
you got real NFL guys on that 2004. It's way more. But man, it's just like it's just, for me personally, it's hard for me to bet against Cam. That was it. That's all I'm saying.
I love the answer because the debate rages on.
Roman, listen, we appreciate so much you taking time to join us. Mark, you got Mark's number. Looking forward to having you come by the tent, SEC Nation in Knoxville. But always love it. Look forward to watching you Monday. Have a great time.
I love coming and get some food from you guys. So thank you, Mark.
You bet. Ditto. Appreciate your insight always.
Appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Go Saints. Hey, guys, that's what I love what Doug just said. I don't care where you went to school. And Frank, God, those Saints quest, that was awesome. He knew the steakhouses and all like that. And Chris Plank's going to be on here in a couple of minutes from the Sooner Network. They're getting ready for that big game against Tennessee. But let's get started, man. And Brenden, I thought the answer he gave to you about Florida, Brenden, was interesting. They're just not doing all the little things, and most people don't want to do those things to get better. And I watched the Pulse about Texas A&M playing at Florida. Brenden, I don't know if any of y'all saw that. And A&M's celebrating like they won the biggest game in memory. But that tells you the brand of Florida. Even to beat a Florida team that's this bad, it still means a lot. I mean, if someone goes to the swamp,
you get to go into the swamp and take one back, and that's the SEC is. It's like lifetime records. Like, oh yeah, we're so against each other, and everyone just wants to be able to talk shit. I mean, that's all it is. But end of the day, it doesn't matter. But I like about Roman, it's like he gives you player perspective. I like interviews like him. He wouldn't say it, but he'd probably be like, F the coaches, like the players. And he's right, because ultimately great players like him don't need that much coaching. I mean, fundamentals and stuff like that, but, discipline, understanding that fundamentals do matter. Things like staying home, staying inside, keeping it, leveraging your other team. That's hard to teach strategy and understanding stuff like that. That comes from playing chess and understanding your next three moves, playing pool and understanding all this different stuff. I think what we see with him and what I always like about watching him is that you get the straight dope perspective from that player. And God almighty, did you see his neck? He'd crush you with like his chin and his neck.
Roman could play today.
Racked, right?
Yeah, Roman could play today.
Well, he's not here, Rob.
Okay. I thought, okay. That was Doug. Okay.
Never for a drink in this town, by the way, just to let you know how beloved Roman is in this town. Should never have to pay for a meal or a cocktail.
Yeah, Rob, look up.
Okay.
There you go.
There's Chris. Chris Plank.
Squirrel, look up. I'm going to take your phone away from you, Rob. Hi, Chris.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Good seeing you.
I've taken the 7 points already. I've taken the 7 points. I believe in Boomer Sooner. All this damn orange talk, let me tell you something. You going into Oklahoma, you better pack your lunch. And what Roman didn't mention when he was talking about this game is if Oklahoma can get this game played on the lines, that's going to be the difference. It's got to be one on the lines, and it's got to be in the 20s.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys having me on. We do remotes on Friday for my radio show, and I jumped on a little bit early, and it got me plenty of time to get here to Mitchell's Jewelry today. So it's kind of because Phil Fulmer's going to come on our show today, so we're pretty excited about that. But the thing that's interesting about this, guys, is it's been a week of just hearing how terrible Oklahoma is and how Tennessee's going to trounce them, and that's fine because we've done this every single year with Tennessee. They went and they got beat by Florida last year when they were supposed to be world beaters. So, Tennessee's really good, though. I mean, let's give them credit. Their defense, they finally got it figured out, it looks like. Oklahoma's got to be better on the offensive line. They haven't been very good on that front. It looks like they're going to get their starting center back, but he's only played 9 snaps so far this season. So we'll see how that plays out. But, yeah, it's been a real interesting week and kind of the buzz and the excitement that is here for fans, for Oklahoma fans. We haven't had game day with fans since 2012, but then also kind of like that nervous energy because you just haven't seen it from your offense yet this year.
Doug, I know you got questions because you got to get back out there to get the deer plots ready at your hunting club. That's life in the South, man. Of course, Oklahoma is definitely the South. Doug, jump in here.
Yeah, first of all, I'm glad you said that because I know Duff and your guests who just came on, Boomer Sooner, you're sitting in your palatial estate sipping Irish coffee or something, and work shifts out here got to get the food plot turned and get deer season. No, seriously, what a big weekend. I think before I get away, Rob, there's an I told you so segment. I told you that Georgia Tech would beat Florida State 3 straight games, if you know what I mean. I liked Memphis last week, and man, how far have the Seminoles fallen? So that's a bigger than it looks on paper game that Florida State got tomorrow. I was speaking on the Auburn front just briefly. Not the most engaging game when you've got Texas and Oklahoma and some other games on the slate, but I've been surprised, Rob, at the Auburn fans that I talked to are apprehensive about this, even though it's in Jordan-Hare, and even though Arkansas has had their own problems, including a close game for a while against UAB last week. But it's a test for Auburn. Can they make progress with the mess on defense from a week ago? I don't have the answer to that, but I think you'll see Hugh Freeze go back to Auburn's DNA, which is hand the ball off to those beast running backs. See if you can take some pressure off Hank Browne until you can, if you're lucky, you can tire that Arkansas front a little bit. But
Yeah.
just what a great weekend it is once again. And I got to say, it's a pleasure to have the blue blood brands of Oklahoma and here in the SEC. It'll take me a minute to get over my venom for Oklahoma or Auburn being unable to jump them in 2004 to play the. Maybe it was a favor not to have to play that USC team.
Yeah, that was insane, Chris. You look at Oklahoma's defense. This Danny Stutzman. He reminds you of your typical just badass linebacker. Oklahoma's had a lot of them. And growing up, we've all, again, that's one of those iconic television aristocracy from the 70s that imprinted us.
Right.
Let's talk about Brent Venables. How involved is he with the planning of the defense? Because he is loved. I know Tommy Tuberville talked every time the opening came up. He wanted Venables. And
Right.
He knows how to find a coach, but you know that program inside out. You're down. By the way, have you ever nearly been run over by the wagon when it's celebrating after a touchdown?
Close to that before. Brent's
Schooner.
It's interesting because Brent has taken a step back from calling the defense this year.
Yeah.
He's hired Zach Alley to come in as his co-defensive coordinator, and he's truly let him call the plays. So he's called the defense. But Coach Venables is still involved, Rob. I mean, he's still involved in the day-to-day operations. But, last year, and more so, I think hiring Zach has allowed him to be a little bit more open, has allowed him to be a little bit more presidential, a little bit more head coachial, if that's even a thing. And it's been really cool to see because I think there's confidence in Zach Alley. Even though he's young, I think he's barely 30. But he's given him that power. And I think it's opened up Brent. I think it's made him a better head coach because he's not spending that time over in the defensive huddle. iPads help with that quite a bit. Oklahoma doesn't even have a defensive coach up in the booth. They don't have an eye in the sky anymore. It's like yesterday we're like, hey, we were asking who's up in the booth, and he's like, nobody. To Zach Alley, he goes, we're all down here because you got the iPad. So it's been a fascinating transition, Rob, for Brent Venables to come. He's never going to be hands off, right? Because he's a defensive mind, and you want that defensive mind, but to be a little bit more hands off, be a little bit more strategic in the way things are going in the game. And he's still calling it. And Tommy Tuberville was smart, always trying to get him there. There were rumors that he had the Alabama job before, or the Auburn job before Harsin took it. So he stepped back just slightly, but I don't think at all when it comes to the planning and the preparation.
Frank?
Hey, Chris, I got a quick question for you. First
Sure.
of all, I'm looking to get Rhonda some nice sapphire earrings. So if you see any while you're walking around the jewelry store, let me know. I'm looking for a good deal. Hey, you can be my jewelry guy. No, I want to let you know, when we were driving back from Columbia to Charlotte in the bus, we had the Oklahoma Tulane game on last week. And Tulane's offense, in a lot of ways, reminds me of Tennessee's offense. And you guys really stymied them. I think Brent Venables having the game against Tulane before this Tennessee game, I think that's going to help y'all. But what I want to speak to is the psyche of Oklahoma and the Sooner fan base and the Sooner program of basically being dissed this week of all this talk about the Big Orange Nation. I got a feeling when this thing kicks off, Boomer Pride is going to come out, and that's going to make it a very tough place for the Volunteers to come in and play. Am I reading that wrong, or did I make a mistake getting the 7 points yesterday at Season Sportsbook?
Yeah, To your first point, you're dead on, right? I mean, Teddy Lehman is our analyst on the radio network, and he talked about it quite a bit, a former linebacker at Oklahoma. What Tulane did, very similar to what Tennessee does. So you couldn't have asked for a better preparation, right?
Yep.
Whenever you're getting that look. Now, granted, Nico's much better than Mensa, but still, and Mensa's going to end up in the SEC next year, boys. Someone's going to go get him if it's not the LSU Tigers. So, I think there's a lot of confidence to be gained from that. I would also add, from your point, I think Oklahoma fans have started to take it a little bit more personally. The week was getting a little paranoid early on because they had not played well offensively. And then all of a sudden, as the week progresses, it's like, we got a chance here. We're Oklahoma. We're going to have a crazy atmosphere. So it's been really cool to see the juice, the energy. It's a vibe around campus you haven't had in a while, not just with game day, but with the energy. Like I had some responsibilities on campus yesterday, and I looked fairly close to campus, and it felt like the Friday before a game day, and it was Saturday. So there's a lot of juice, and I think it's going to be very loud on Thursday or for our Saturday night.
Doug?
Yeah, before I get out of here, and this is way off the radar, but I feel like I need to take my medicine. I was going to ride that Vanderbilt Commodore train, which nobody else was on. And it looked great against Tech. Georgia, come on, man. Georgia State. So I'm Vanderbilt Commodore Nation. You better be anchors down, because I'm picking Vanderbilt to take Mizzou to the wire. I like Vandy and the points. That Diego Pavia, he's not going to have two terrible games back to back.
No.
And Mizzou I think they're going to make a charge at the playoff. But that was a troubling game a week ago. Much could have gone the other way. And I still like Missouri. I really like Drinkwitz. In fact, Brenden, you can comment on if Kiffin ends up being off the table. Is Drinkwitz? Wouldn't he be a fit at Florida if he considers that a more attractive? Which I think
that would be a wild one. I mean,
I like Vanderbilt to come back, not win the game, but make it interesting late. I'm out of here, Rob.
Doug, thank you so much, man. Look forward to having you. Next week will be Saturday. Chris, you got to come join us next Saturday. We're going to be doing a live show on location down in Auburn. We're going to be down there Friday and Saturday. So I want you to come out there with us. We're going to do it 8 o'clock Saturday morning. Get the day kicked. I know you'll be in Auburn. So I guess y'all fly into Atlanta. And
you know what? I have no clue. I think it might be Montgomery. Does that sound
okay?
Right?
Montgomery. There you go. Oh, look, we're looking forward to having you on. And I know you've got to jump off here in about 4 minutes. Tell us what we don't know that we need to know, the top story developing out there in Soonerland. And just be careful about the Sooner Schooner, as Frank alluded to, because that's a powerful beast coming at you after a field goal or a touchdown, isn't it? Anything.
Watch them turns.
And when they turn, and then when they take the field now too, it's leading them out on the field. Something new here in 2024. So some non-game things to keep an eye on. The Toby Keith tribute to start the fourth quarter has been really cool. They play courtesy of the red, white, and blue, and everyone sings along. You know, Toby was a diehard. If he was still with us, he'd probably be the guest picker this weekend.
Yeah.
From a non-game day perspective, that's really cool. And a non-in-game perspective, I think that's something fans have really started to embrace and like. Two in-game things I think worth keeping an eye on. You know, Oklahoma, we haven't really seen too much. I think the word would be mystery when it comes to their special teams. Haven't had a lot of big kick returns. Haven't had a lot of big punt returns. When Peyton Bowen got hurt in the first game, they struggled even catching the damn punt. They bobbled it all over the place. And so he's healthy. Kettner, who transferred in from Florida State and hadn't kicked in a game in his career until he got here, has been outstanding. But I only bring it up because I think special teams are going to play a massive role in this game, whether it's a big return, whether it's a fake, whether it's a punt block. You know, you look historically in those big games for Oklahoma, Bob Stoops always had something up his sleeve. The fake punt against Alabama that changed the whole course of that. I think they did it twice. I think they did it against Alabama twice. So I would keep an eye on special teams. And, you know, Doug Deacon's come over. He's become kind of their special teams coordinator. Kind of he is, and has done a really nice job. So that wouldn't surprise me at all to see something in the special teams. And then third, there's a freshman running back. I think I talked about him earlier, but Taylor Tatum, and you get the sense that he's getting really comfortable. Oklahoma's got to get more from their running game if they're going to win this game on Saturday night. They've got to be better on the offensive line. So to me, I would keep an eye on a guy like Taylor Tatum. He's a baseball player too. He's a dual threat athlete. So I'm really excited about the opportunities with Taylor Tatum to potentially have a big game on Saturday night. Those are some things that for me, I'm really keeping an eye on.
All right, Chris
has to play Oklahoma football. That's what has to happen on Saturday night. That's what I'm looking for. Oklahoma's got to man up on the offensive line.
Chris, two greatest running backs in Oklahoma history. One of them's from Hooks, Texas. The other one's from Palestine, Texas. I'm going to say Billy Sims and Adrian Peterson. Agree or disagree?
I like that a lot. I think Joe Washington would have something to say about it. DeMarco might have something to say about it. But I'm with those would be my two favorites.
Hey, Chris, this is Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, a Texas grad in the Hook'em Hut down there. And you guys don't get into it on the show, but I got to ask you this. This is so funny. I asked Ken, in the SEC, you're going to see this when you start traveling. Frank will tell you, Doug, Brenden, I love it entertaining the fans from these other schools, coming there and drink some Ham's beer back behind me, cold ones, barbecue, in Frank's case, gumbo, boudin, jambalaya, anything. But we love hanging out with the fans of the other schools, and we want to beat you. But I see a day where Texas and OU fans come together. Chris, is it going to happen?
Well, we came together. We left together. I mean,
there you go.
You might have been on different cars, but y'all left together.
Well, you know what? I almost think we had to go in the same car, to be honest with you. With way big but they together because they realized, you were better together, you're more profitable together than you probably were trying to split apart. And so I love Texas, man. I love Del Conte, and like I said, I want to beat them on October. What is that, 16th? But I think it's pretty impressive.
October 12th.
Done.
Yeah. October 12th. Howdy, folks. Big Tex here at the Texas State Fair. Y'all have the biggest party.
Well, hey, Chris, what I told Rob was, he was talking about how all the fans in the SEC like to get together after the game under a tent, have a cold one and eat some nachos or whatever. I said, listen, after the Texas OU game, you're not going to see any Texas OU fans getting together under a tent and singing Kumbaya. Right?
One of us State Fair, the other's partying, so that's kind of how it goes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Chris, I know you've got a heart out right now. You've got another show you got to do, but first off, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, and absolutely love the Toby Keith tribute. You think about him, a wildcatter, the way he was. He represents that fighting spirit of Oklahoma, Sooner pride. That's a 5.1 million people in a blood red state. America first. Love having you on here. Join us next Saturday in Auburn. We'll feed you well.
I'll do my best, Rob. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right, take care. That is Chris Plank, Boomer Sooner Network, the sideline reporter. And hey, Ken, Frank. Ken's got some notes on arts that are going to blow our minds. So let me say this real quick about our great sponsors. We are blessed to have sponsors like Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. I was out there yesterday to see Charles Hall and JM and Raven. Picked out some great stuff for my squaw, Audrey, a new dress and some new Stetson jeans. Holy shnikes. They're just absolutely phenomenal stuff. You go in there, they know you and they know what you like. And even if you don't have your wife with you, in my case, Audrey wasn't with me. Miss Audrey got some cool stuff, and she was just giggling and grinning when I gave them to her. And I mean, it's a great store to go to. Also, the folks at the Vitamin Shop in Oxford and Olive Branch, Mississippi, they've got products that work, and they've got a staff that's trained and is knowledgeable. You can order, hit that QR code. Let them know you heard about it on Sidelines. They're open every day of the week, 7 days a week. There's only 7 days. And you will love the people there. Great products. I use the prebiotics, the shot blocks, the goo, the energy gel, the recovery drinks for workouts. Also, Rumble Boxing Gym, Midtown Memphis. How you fight is how you live. All these QR codes are available on here. If you're looking for a hunting dog, the best dog training in America is in Jonesboro, Arkansas, Web-Footed Kennels. My friend Chris Aiken, for nearly 30 years, love this guy. He doesn't half-ass anything. He goes all in. He has 8 people on staff to help him train. He and his wife live on the grounds. They have an absolutely incredible training ground. Top hunting dogs in America at Web-Footed Kennel. Also, the great folks at Matei's Garage in Memphis. They're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Matei's Garage and Cordova Automotive and Tom Martin's Body Shop, downtown Memphis, G.E. Patterson and B.B. King. All right, Ken Caps, I promised you as soon as you got on here, let you run. I love it, Frank. He takes reporters' notes and stuff like that. And then, Frank, I want y'all to engage because he's going to talk about this quarterback who played it, Isidore Newman, in New Orleans.
Right.
Right up the street.
Hey, well, Frank, first of all, I wanted to congratulate you on your Tigers for pulling out that big win.
Frank, are you there?
Touch and go there for a while. We stayed in there. I got four degrees of sunstroke. We hung in. I don't want to hear about all the flags because you know what? When you let another team come back from 17, that's your problem. So I felt good about our Tigers, and we hung in there and fought.
Well, I was keeping up with that game. I was down in Austin for the UTSA Texas game, and boy, a lot of people were thinking that was going to be a ho-hum game, but there in the second quarter, Quinn Ewers goes down, and who marches onto the field but Arch. To a standing ovation. It's always said in Texas that the most popular player on the team is the second string quarterback. And, that's been that way with Arch, since he got there. And he comes in and on the second play, he's in there. He runs for a 67-yard touchdown. Me and my friend Joe are sitting there going, wow, he looked really fast. But look, this is what happened this week. Somebody was smart enough to get a stopwatch out. He was running at 20.7 miles per hour. Okay. That was faster than Tyreek Hill at 20.3 miles per hour earlier this year for the Miami Dolphins. Nobody at Texas, at least the Texas fans, didn't know that dude can motor. And so after that,
he looks exactly like his and Ken, he looks exactly like his grandpa with them swivel hips. Dude, I was a Saints fan sitting in Tulane Stadium 2 miles from here watching his grandpa in 71, 72, 73. Said now, he didn't run on design. He ran for his life. But I'm telling you what, Archie Manning could motor. And that's what I see in his and I didn't see it in Peyton or Eli, but I see it in his grandson.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure Sark kind of held his breath as he took off down the field. But, wow, what a touchdown. And then he came back and threw for 4 more touchdowns. And but the thing about that Texas quarterback running touchdown, that was the longest running touchdown by a Texas quarterback since Vince Young in 2005. What season was that? That was the national championship season. He ran for an 80-yard touchdown against Oklahoma State. So that's been how long it's been since the Texas quarterback has run for a touchdown that long. Not even Colt McCoy ran for a touchdown that long, and he had good feet too. So everybody in the stands, is just going, wow. And, he only played about 2 quarters because he came in through 4 more touchdown passes. Quarter, his back and played. And, CBS Sports has already pushed him up to number 1 in their quarterback power rankings. And, of course, the knower of all known knowledge, Paul Feinbaum, has already said he's going to win the Heisman Trophy before he leaves Texas. So it's kind of all Arch all the time down there right now. And he makes his first start this Saturday against Louisiana Monroe. And Rob, this is my last thing I wanted to say. As if a 44-point underdog needs to put any bulletin board material on the board down there for Texas. I wanted to read this because I'll make sure I get it right. So the defensive coordinator for Louisiana Monroe, Ernest Hill said that some of his players have already faced Manning when he was at Isidore Newman. And here's his quote: "A couple of guys done beat him already, so they don't hold much fear against him. So they're not going to hold any fear against him this week. So they've done already beat him." That's what he said. Yeah. And so no fear. But I was thinking to myself, well, you may not fear Arch, but are you going to fear the 10 wide receivers he's got to throw to?
Yeah.
And the 2 running backs or 4 running backs he's got to throw to. So
yeah.
When you're 40, I guess when you're 44 point under.
Yeah, that's a little bit different than the private school wide receivers that Arch had when he was at Newman. Just a little bit different, and probably Newman schedules a lot of the the next level teams. So when they get into their which is a much smaller district, they go through it. So that's probably where those players play. They were probably at 5A high schools, which Newman is a much smaller school. But that logic doesn't make sense. My question to you, Ken, is what is the status of Ewers now with his injury? Yeah. And what is going to be the quarterback, the locker room, the quarterback room when Ewers comes back and is fully healthy, because he was having a Heisman style year before he got hurt. I'm fascinated by the behind the scenes look of what Texas is going to be when Ewers comes back.
Well, Ewers is according to Sark, Ewers is questionable. He has this abdominal strain, and I'm not really quite sure what that is. But
those are pesky.
Yeah. So my guess is that he could even sit out the Mississippi State game if he wanted to, and Arch could play. And of course, then the next game, Texas has a bye week, October 5th, and then there's the OU game on October the 12th, and he'll darn sure be back for that. And Sark has already said, he's a smart guy. Yeah. He's not going to let this quarterback thing get out of hand. And he's already said Quinn is our starter. So when he's ready to come, he's coming back. And I'm so glad that he learned from his boss Nick Saban not to let that thing get out of hand, because there's already been a lot of talk, that Manning should start this and that. No. The plan is still the plan. The process is still the process. Who do we hear that from? Nick Saban. So Nick Saban. Ewers will be QB1 when he's healthy.
Ken, you can see over my shoulder, my right shoulder, the SEC map that our good friend Barnwood Brenda Brewer down in Batesville, Mississippi made. You notice it's not by accident. It's just Texas is so damn big. Look at the Texas just sticks out at you. So I gotta ask you. I had a question for you, and now I'm kind of drawn. Yeah, here. No, someone said on here, easy on us non-Northwestern McDill Masters holders from Northwestern journalism. I guess that's from Rob Anderson in Valdosta, Georgia, down there in Lowndes County. So I'm going to use a fancy word. And Frank, watch this. Will we continue to see a modicum of Arch Manning every Saturday from here on out? Modicum. That is the word that got my son Wilson knocked out of the spelling bee in second grade at St. Louis Catholic School. Dadgummit, modicum. Today's word.
Well, I mean,
what do you think?
I think. Go ahead, Ken.
Well, I was just going to say that, Ewers is players now. Every year, Ewers has been injured and missed time and missed games. So, he is, Frank, you're exactly right. He's having a Heisman year. That game against Michigan pushed him way up in the Heisman rankings. All we ever heard about was Dylan Gabriel and Carson Beck. And then all of a sudden put himself in there. A lot of people said Manning himself in the Heisman race after that game last week. But again, it was UTSA. But to come in cold, and just and to come in and throw 4 touchdown passes, run for another one in 2 quarters, they weren't going to risk getting him hurt either. So then Trey Owens comes in, gets some valuable playing time. But Arch is always going to be a factor. And my gosh, there's nobody in this country that has 2 basically stud quarterbacks, QB1, QB2, that can just come in and play lights out football week in, week out.
Yeah, no, you're right. Y'all have an abundance of riches, an absolute abundance of riches. Here's the thing that I was more impressed with watching Arch come in. He immediately had a command of the offense. They looked up to him like he was a senior or a fifth-year senior or a COVID sixth-year senior. That, to me, shows me that behind the scenes, that young man, a true sophomore, a sophomore-aged young man, has control of that team. That is really impressive. And look, we all know he's a great kid. I know Cupper, his dad. In fact, Arch actually went out with a daughter of one of my pledge brothers, my fraternity brother. They went out for, I don't know if they're still going out, but they went out together. I heard from the dad of the daughter, this is one of the nicest young men, one of the most composed young men. So we know he's got the pedigree. We know he's got the arm. We found out he's got grandpa's legs from that swivel hip run. Dude, he's the real deal. And look, I hate to agree with Paul, but Paul might be right. I think the kid is a shoe-in for the Heisman. I hate to put that pressure on him, but let me tell you something. That's why I picked Texas to win the national championship this year. And Sark is only building a behemoth. And let me tell you something. Kirby starts stumbling over there in Athens, and you saw a little hiccup on Saturday night. I watched that game. That was not an impressive offense. Carson Beck, look, that was Kentucky. South Carolina put 31 up on Kentucky. So I'm telling you, there is a sea shift going on in this brand new conference of ours, and it is shifting westward.
Well, let me throw this, Ken. Not so fast on writing off Georgia. Don't buy the flowers. Don't pick out a suit to bury him in, and don't call the casket maker. Georgia stumbles every year, and Frank, you're right on everything else, but they stumbled at Auburn last year. Brock Bowers, the kid out of Napa, California, pulled that one out. They've struggled the last 2 or 3 times they played at Kentucky. You're not going to be at maximum effort every time. Brenden, I want Brenden to jump in here. He comes in. I want Brenden in this conversation because I want to get Ken's thoughts, and Frank too. What's going on, obviously. Florida is going to have a tectonic plate type effect on the rest of college football because Florida's going to grab them a coach. And when they do, I go to that statistic I saw, trust but verify, but it says Nick Saban's retirement led to 423 people's careers being affected around the country with just the moving of the chairs. It's interesting. But I think Kirby Smart, what he's looking at, Frank and Ken and everybody watching, he's got the week off to just rip into these guys and say, see, you're reading all this stuff about yourself and you're caught up in all this. You're eating the rat poison, as Saban would say. And they're going to be, I think, clicking on another level when they get to Tuscaloosa. Frank Duffy, jump in here, the man from New Orleans.
Well, not having McConkey and Bowers early in this year, that was Brock's safety blankets
Correct.
I think that's really the effect that you're seeing with this. And look, they just beat down Clemson, right? But Clemson made that close in the first half. So I'm just saying, from what I saw, look, I watched every play of that Colorado State game. I watched the Michigan game. And I watched when Arch came in. I wanted to see that. I went back and watched all the highlights. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, it's Texas's to lose in this conference right now. That's how well Texas is playing, and Georgia is not the Georgia of the last 3 seasons, in my humble opinion.
Well, I think Ken, when Roman Harper was on in the first segment, he too is in New Orleans, where he played football for the Saints for 9 years. Of course, he's from Prattville, Alabama, a proud Prattville Lion. He talked about Georgia needing those playmakers outside on the edges. And Frank alluded to it a moment ago. Without Ladd McConkey, without Brock Bowers, first and second round draft picks, they are a different team. And in their great history at Georgia, which began February 20th, 1892 at Piedmont Park in Atlanta, Georgia, Auburn 10, Georgia nothing.
Yeah.
It was a crowd of 5,000. My dad was there. Georgia's mascot
Oldest rivalry in the South.
Georgia's mascot was a goat with a red and black cape. And Vince Dooley, legendary coach for Georgia from Murphy High School in Mobile, Alabama, played at Auburn with his teammate Erskine Irk Russell. Vince Dooley said that game in 1892, which Auburn won, the Georgia fans were so enraged that they barbecued the goat after the game. I guess you could say that was the first tailgate in the Southeastern Conference, Piedmont Park. And it's a famous place in Atlanta. All right, I'm going to play trivia because I got a couple of savants. And when Dave Tompkins is on here, it's up on another level. But his schedule's crazy. He was on with us Wednesday. I'm going to ask both of y'all. I'll start with Ken. There were three brothers, Lamb, Ham, and Jam Jones.
Jam Jones.
Texas. Where were they from in Texas? I bet Ken knows this. If he doesn't,
I sure
he's got
do.
both of us. Okay, go ahead.
Well, they weren't brothers. Okay, they weren't brothers.
They were friends.
But they all played together. Johnny Lamb Jones was a very, very great friend of mine, and was an amazing man. You know, he won the 1976 gold medal on the 440 track team on the 440 hurdles in Montreal. Okay, he was the number 1 draft pick for the Jets when he got out, and just was an amazing man, and really helped kids with drug and alcohol problems. He passed away about 4 years ago. I was a pallbearer. I was honored to be a pallbearer.
Wow.
At his funeral, and really, really, really miss him. He sold his gold medal to help out kids in Special Olympics. But anyway, Johnny Lamb was from Lampasas, Texas.
Wow.
Lampasas, Texas.
Yep.
Johnny Ham Jones was from Hamlin, Texas, which is about 200 miles north and west of the Metroplex, as we like to say here on this show. And then Jam, believe it or not, was from Los Angeles, California. And they used to rib him so much that when he got to Texas, you know, he showed, and this is like back in the late 70s. And I love hearing these stories that when Jam showed up, you know, he showed up, you know, dressed LA style. And so they had to fix that down there in Austin, Texas. So they went out and bought him a pair of cowboy boots and, you know, some Western jeans, and Ham and Lamb helped him out with that. But yes, Ham, Jam, and Lamb all played on the same team and were all on the field at the same time once in a while. And they were 3 amazing players and 3 amazing ambassadors for the University of Texas.
I remember Lamb
That's
Jones
awesome.
turning a punt against the Saints when we played the Jets. I think it was a Monday night game. And all I can remember is Russell Erxleben, the Texas punter, who we drafted crazily in the first round. Never, even if he punts and kicks, don't take one in the first round. When he punted, Lamb Jones put a move on. The Saints were up like 18 points in the game. The Jets came back and won, and it was on Lamb's punt return that they went ahead and stayed ahead. And the juke that he put on his former Texas mate at the goal line, Erxleben folded like a lawn chair at the goal line trying to stop Johnny Lamb Jones, and he scored.
All right,
Well,
let me say this.
Erxleben kicked a 63-yard field goal, which stood as a record for a long time at Texas. And so,
that's why we drafted him first. Was that kick and the fact that he can punt? I can still hear the Saints saying, "Well, we got two players for one." Again, he did not have the pro career that we hoped he had. He also had lots of injuries. He was always on the shelf.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. I know Brendan's on location today, undisclosed location. But, Ken, that was a cool answer. And knowing about it, because how many times have we heard Waylon Jennings talk about, let's go to Lugenbach, Texas, and then out in Lampasas. That these towns, they're etched in our iconic, in our brain, the nomenclature of our lives. That sounds like a great soap opera. These are the nomenclature of our lives. I don't think that would go over very well. Not with Floyd R. Turbo American. Frank, got a question real quick, and we're going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. Give me a game or two that you think, I love this one, and the line, and your take on it, and then we'll wrap up.
I like Georgia Tech getting 10.5 from Louisville. I like Army. I like your boy Dave Tompkins, Army Knights. But I really think Oklahoma getting 7 at home at night. I think they're going to step up, and if not win the game outright, I think they're going to keep it within a touchdown.
Woo!
Ken, anything jump out at you? Tell us, last thing. Let me just say this. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us people. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. What does that mean? Go out and help other people. We're all blessed. You give, you'll get back more in return than you could ever dream of. I want to say thanks everybody watching today. Executive producer Brenden Martin, Doug Dean, Roman Harper, Chris Plank. We cannot do it without a team. Every time you talk about something, listen to Pat Sullivan's Heisman acceptance speech in 1971. It ain't about one person. It's the entire group. A lot of people get you there. As Bobby Louder says, when you drink from the well, remember those who dug it. Don't ever forget it. Ken, parting words.
Well, I just want to congratulate my another good friend of mine, Major Applewhite, former quarterback at Texas, for his big win last night at South Alabama, beating Appalachian State 48-14. And I don't know if y'all watched that game, but the students were. But what were those App State students doing over there, sliding down that hill in the mud? I mean, they weren't watching the game. They were over there.
That bad.
Well, they needed
you're losing like that.
Well, but if you're gonna do that, they needed to put some more. They needed a garden hose and needed to put some more water on that mud because it wasn't slippery anymore. I got more of a kick watching that.
Yeah, I did too. But you know what? Celebrate college football, folks. Everybody, have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends about this show, and we will see you Monday. Thank you.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children